It's 4:02, a beautiful sunny day here in Minnesota. And this is the Metropolitan Council Committee of the Whole. Welcome. I was just so impressed we had such a huge audience to see the Committee of the Whole, but I realized they're all presenters. Thank you. I'm just so thrilled we have so many experts on bus rapid transit, and we're gonna hear a lot about the openings, the readiness, everything that's going on in 2025. So this is an exciting year and an exciting agenda that we've been looking forward to hearing more about. I wanna say just a couple of quick things. We thought this would be Tenzin Dolkar's last meeting. And it would be, except that she's feeling a little under the weather, so she's not coming up, and I can't embarrass her about an old picture I had from 10 years ago. I was sitting on a table.
I think you still are.
Doesn't she look like the intern that we had at midnight? Anyway, now I can't see that, but she has been a really important part of this council for a few years, and now has been serving as Midwest Climate and Energy Program at the McKnight Foundation. I'm sorry she isn't here, so we should at least acknowledge her, but I appreciate her contributions. So with that, I already mentioned the agenda, and unless anybody has a firm objection, that's what we're going to do today. And there were minutes sent out in advance from the meeting on February 5th, 2025. Is there's any corrections or questions?
So moved.
Speak now or vote. So,
Sorry.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No, I appreciated that. The minutes are approved. All right, Leslie is gonna kick this off, and we're gonna hear a lot about what we may not know, some things we do know, but we have a big year ahead, so congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Zelli, council members. We are excited to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to share some information about activities we have underway as we prepare to open the Metro Gold Line just over a month from now, and as we look forward to opening 2 more bus rapid transit lines later this year. As you'll learn through our presentation this evening, there's a tremendous amount of work happening across virtually every department at Metro Transit. I think as you see here tonight with our audience, this truly is all hands on deck work. And we really at Metro Transit want to make sure we're making the most of what's a historic year. Historic not just for Metro Transit and the Metropolitan Council, but also for our riders and the communities we serve. If you look at this timeline, you'll see, starting with the launch of the Red Line back in 2013, the Metropolitan Council, along with our partners, have opened 5 bus rapid transit lines. And we're now preparing to open 3 bus rapid transit lines this year alone. So while we have a lot of work ahead of us, we are, as you'll see throughout the presentation tonight, we're very ready and well under our way, and are truly eager to rise to this occasion. And before I hand it over to Alicia to talk about the Metro Gold Line, I wanted to just take a moment to step back and really place in context that the Gold Line, the B Line, the E Line that will all open this year are part of a much broader transit network. The investments that will launch this year are part of helping us advance Metro Transit's mission of connecting people, strengthening communities, and improving lives. And together, these new lines will grow out our Metro network to more than 120 miles. This will mean that 38% of the region's households with no vehicle access will be within a half mile of a Metro station by the end of the year. 30% of the region's renter households and 28% of the region's total jobs will be within a half mile of the Metro system or Metro station. So expanding bus rapid transit means that we are expanding our offerings of fast, frequent, all-day service that will meet a variety of travel needs. And that's part of growing our ridership. Last year, over 8 million rides were taken on our bus rapid transit system, which represented about a 14% increase compared to those lines in 2023. And just to put that in some context, that's compared to a system-wide increase of 6%. Average weekday ridership in the corridors served by the Metro D Line and Metro Orange Line are already above pre-pandemic levels. From an operations and maintenance perspective, as you can see on this slide, the lines opening this year will bring 84 new stations to our metro network. We'll also bring 76 new buses into our fleet, and we're in the process of filling dozens of newly budgeted support positions, including public facility workers, trip agents, and more. Of course, opening a new transitway is really more of a starting point than a finishing line. And so while we're here today to talk about how we're getting ready to open these new lines, just know that we're committed to operating and maintaining these services at a level that will keep our riders coming back again and again. So with that, thank you again for your time this evening, and I'm going to hand it over to Gold Line Project Director Alicia Dow.
Since we're switching chairs, I might ask Andrew, because you're after me, I realized I asked the wrong person to come up with me. But I'll take this opportunity to introduce Liz. So Liz Jones is our outreach coordinator for Gold Line. She's been on the project, one of the first employees. Yep, and so Liz has a lot of history, but she also is great at her job, and she'll give a lot of updates in a few minutes. So keep going. So 30 days until we open. A little scary. So today we'll talk about the project, we'll talk about funding and agreements, a lot of pictures to show construction progress. Then I'll turn it over to colleagues to talk about operational readiness, and then Liz finally will end with grand opening events. So the Gold Line. So this is a mostly dedicated guideway running from downtown St. Paul. You guys might have seen the stations as they progress in construction on 5th and 6th Streets. So running from downtown St. Paul through the east side of St. Paul, and then through the communities of Maplewood, Lamphall, Oakdale, and Woodbury. So the map that we're showing is, unfortunately, we do have to operate on a long-term detour because of the Kellogg Bridge construction. And so this is a map that we're using with the community to show the route of the detour. So Gold Line will be frequent all-day service, so between 10 and 15 minutes most of the days, operating in primarily bus-only lanes. So mostly it'll operate north of Interstate 94 in its own guideway from Mounds, with a few stretches of shared guideway out to Woodbury. We've constructed 16 new stations, including 5 pairs in downtown St. Paul. Our budget is $505.3 million. Happy to report that pending any bad news, we're doing great with our budget. We'll be completing the project under budget and on schedule, so we're really proud about that. We're purchasing 17 new buses, so we're getting 12 diesel, 5 electric, and those electric will be operating out of East Metro Garage, where electric buses will be operating for the first time out of that facility. So there's a lot of improvements to the East Metro Bus Garage happening to accommodate those electric buses. That work is happening now, and those buses will start revenue service in August. And then we're also doing some upgrades to the facility to account for more of the 60-foot buses, so adding some hoists and some other work for the maintenance crew. We're adding new park and rides, so we have 2 new surface park and rides, one at Helmo, one at Sunray. We have 1 new structured parking ramp in Woodbury. Several new BRT crossings, including 2 underpasses. We'll show some photos of those. We'll be hiring 34 bus operators. The pick started, and training and all the materials is ready to go. Training will start next week for the operators. Jonathan will talk about that. Route 351, which is an express route from Woodbury to downtown St. Paul, is going to be discontinued when the service starts on March 22nd. And I talked about the Kellogg Bridge. So Gold Line funding, so we have many funding sources for the project. So in addition to our New Starts Capital Investment Grant, our CIG grant, we have several regional solicitation grants that add up to just shy of $260 million. We do have state funding that help contribute to several bridges and ped bridges. We'll show some photos of those, and then of course our local funding partners. So Ramsey County, Washington County have been a big part of the project. They were big promoters and champions of the project since the beginning, and so they're an important part of our service. They're actually also paying for free rides, we'll talk about that later, for the first week. And then additional investment from local funding partners, since we were doing so much kind of ripping up of roads and reconstructing of roads. It was a great time for our local funding partners to contribute their own funding for utility replacements, trails, lighting, and landscaping. So I'll show a lot of photos, but just to give a quick overview of where we are with construction. So we're substantially complete, both on our two larger projects, which is our civil project and our Wood Lane Park and Ride project. There are some crews still working. You might see them. The cold temps the past few weeks have not helped us, but we have had a great winter, which has helped us. But you'll see crews in the coming weeks finishing with some railings and fencing. There's a lot of systems integration testing that's happening right now, where they're testing how all the fiber works to communicate back to to all of our facilities, making sure that emergency telephones work and cameras and whatnot. And then some work that will be happening after we open. There is some landscaping work still to be completed along the guideway, and then environmental services is doing some utility work at the Helmel Park and Ride. And so they have maybe about 40 parking spaces that they're kind of using in their job site for that work, and so that restoration should be completed later this fall. For the Park and Ride, we are very close, hoping to hear by today, but we had a verbal that our occupancy permit will be completed, I think as of yesterday, but we're just waiting for the official word. So that's great. And then work at East Metro Garage. The bus chargers have been delivered. The work is ongoing at that facility. A really huge and impressive looking switchgear has been delivered to that site, which will add a lot more power. So that's great, keeping us on schedule. And then the interior work is progressing as well. So some photos. So this is the Maple Pedestrian Bridge in St. Paul. So this was a facility that did not meet accessibility needs, and so it was reconstructed. This is one of the items that we received additional funding from the state, but it's actually a pretty beautiful bridge if you like ped bridges, and it's a great asset to the community. So happy that that facility got rebuilt in St. Paul. So I have a couple of photos showing the guideway. So the photo on the left is the Ruth Underpass, that's in St. Paul, and the photo on the right is in Oakdale. So that's on 4th Street approaching Hayward. Just a couple things to point out. The photo on the left is pretty much just north of Interstate 94, so that's where the guideway is the BRT guideway is in its own dedicated right-of-way. The photo on the right, we're center running with 4th Street on the outside lanes. Couple bridge photos. So the photo on the left is showing the Etna Bridge, and that's just east of the Etna station. It's a BRT only facility in St. Paul. And then the photo on the right is the new bridge at Bielenberg. So this was a completely new crossing of Interstate 94. It took a lot of work to get to that point. This facility will accommodate not only BRT but also vehicles, trails, and it really is a great new connection between Oakdale and Woodbury. Stations. We built several beautiful stations. The photo on the left is the Earl Street Station in St. Paul. A photo on the right is our only unique crossover station that's kind of similar to the 35W at 46th Street Station in Minneapolis, where the buses kind of cross at opposite direction. We're introducing bar signals along this alignment, which are similar to light rail signals with a vertical or horizontal bar. We have several of these at this station to keep those bus operators safe. More pictures of stations. So the photo on the left is the Queens Avenue Station in Woodbury. The photo on the right is one that you might have seen in downtown St. Paul at Rice Park. And then We've done a lot of pedestrian improvements along this corridor, so just wanted to highlight a couple of those. So we've built a lot of new sidewalks and a lot of new trails. So these are a couple in St. Paul. So the one on the left is on Wilson Avenue as you are heading eastbound to access the Hazel Street Station. And then the photo on the right is at the McKnight Bridge where there's a trail facility that goes over McKnight. And then the Wood Lane Park and Ride. So this is our large park and ride at the end of the facility with over 500 parking spaces. We also accommodated one of the biggest needs we have kind of in our system for bus operators. There's a bus operator restroom and break area and quiet room at this location. We also have storage for facilities under the speed ramp as the ramp goes up. There's a huge room for storage, which is great for facilities maintenance. And then finally, East Metro Garage. So the photo on the left is showing the battery electric bus chargers. And the photo on the right is installation of one of the new hoists. As you can imagine, with this much new infrastructure, one of the items our staff is working on really feverishly right now is operations and maintenance agreements. So we have many agreements that have been executed and then some in progress still. So we have general infrastructure agreements. So hopefully next week we'll be routing an agreement for execution with MnDOT for O&M for the entire facility. And then we're still working on details with St. Paul, Maplewood, Oakdale, and Woodbury for general O&M agreements. We also have agreements for traffic signals, for TSP, transit signal priority, for bridges. And then finally, we do have 2 executed agreements with Washington County. They're doing all the plowing on the guideway. So from Mounds Boulevard out into Woodbury, it's been a great winter for them to kind of practice and get this under their belt. And we've had a lot of back and forth. It's actually been a good experience for them to learn the corridor without a lot of buses. And so I think everything is going really well on that. And then our own facility staff will do the snow removal at our stations. And then finally, we have an executed agreement with the city of Woodbury for the Wood Lane Park and Ride. All right, thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Andrew Brody, Director of Safety for Metro Transit. I could probably talk for hours on this subject, but I've been told to keep it under a couple minutes, so lucky for you guys, you don't have to hear all that. But safety and security is very important in a project like this, the size and scope of it. And safety and security is one of those things that we take very seriously and we value as we start with the design, and that's where it starts, and we follow through all the way to the completion, and we're looking to complete that on time for opening day. But what is safety certification, and what is the kind of the abbreviated process? And it's basically to verify the safety and security readiness of a project for public use. And that is required by the FTA for projects over $100 million, but that's not the only reason we do it. We ensure the safety and security to ensure our employees, our customers, and our communities are safe or where we operate in. It's extremely important. So that's why we do it, but it's not only just a requirement for the FTA, we need to do it to ensure the safety of everybody.
Mr. Chair, if I can just.
Yeah, sure.
So, and that's ensure, but we also insure, and I just have learned a lot from Phil over the years on how super important it is to get all of this figured out, and then Phil goes out and explains it with, the insurance companies, actuarials, or whoever all those people are, and then when we have to go back, to lines that have been built, recently or years past, and still prove that they are very safe and have all these certifications. So thanks to all of you. We have a really good reputation, and we have I would say a variety of insurers that are willing to work with us because of the hard work you're doing. So I just wanted to, that comes up in management every now and then, and I think it's one of those things that's kind of invisible but super important to the work that we do, because if we can't get the insurance, we can't do what we do. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for that, and it's definitely a group effort. Alicia's team and my team, it's pretty extensive, but it's extremely important. So thank you for that. So just a kind of a brief timeline, there is actually a diagram on the right there that kind of goes more in depth, but from design, so like defining the project, we define elements of the project and ensure that those elements in the project become a safety certifiable item. And then we're auditing that as the project moves through to ensure everything is nut and bolted, I's dotted, T's crossed type thing, and everything's documented. And we analyze those hazards to ensure that we're trying to eliminate them, right? We wanna make sure we can try to design any hazard out. That's our top priority. If we can't design it out, we move to the next level of mitigation strategy, and that is trying to come up with some type of technology or anything like that. And the last thing we really look at is some type of SOP or those types of things to help mitigate any hazards that we find during the design and all the way through the construction process. And we develop and implement those controls, whether it be training or, like I said, construction. And we perform those verification activities through the program we use is eBuilder. That is extremely helpful to ensure that everybody's eyes that needs to be on it is certified, and we take documentation very seriously and making sure that those things are all documented. And then the final review is coming up here shortly, and we are on track to complete that. Safety and security verification reports that will be signed before opening day.
And how many safety certs do we have in?
Oh, jeez.
Like
A lot.
1,100?
Yeah, it's a lot. But it's good. So just to put it in perspective, every single station has their own safety cert for every little thing, and it goes down to the grounding of the actual station itself. So making sure everything is grounded, we have pictures of that, we have document of that, and it's not just one station, it's all stations. So it gets to be a lot. Which part of the safety certification actually leads me into the next slide is our emergency drill. So we conducted an emergency drill on November 12th, 2024, this last fall. It was at the Helmo Ave station, and we did that in partnership with many different partners. I don't know if I'm gonna name all of them, so I apologize if I forget you, but Oakdale Police and Fire were there, City of Woodbury, Woodbury Police Department, Washburn County, St. Paul Emergency Management, Maplewood Police and Fire, all came together on this day and really walked through, how do we get access to the dedicated right-of-way and making sure that people understand that it's not just a regular right-of-way, there's only certain entrance and exit points. And then, the biggest thing that people wanted to understand is the electric bus. So we had maintenance personnel on staff to really walk, specifically the firemen that were there, where to cut if you could cut, or where not to cut, where the emergency power is, and just walking through the different scenarios was extremely beneficial. And we aren't stopping there, right? We're working with the stakeholders in the partnership along the corridor. And the City of Woodbury has actually have two exercises, April 8th and April 22nd, that will be bringing a battery electric bus out there along with maintenance staff as well to walk more people through it and ensure that they feel comfortable responding to an exercise like this. And we learn a lot from each other, right? Like one of the things that we learned was, it would be really helpful if the operator could communicate to our dispatch center that if it's an electric bus or diesel, and that then gets transmitted to the police department if we have a fire or emergency type thing. So that's one of the things that we actually put in place right before this drill, because we recognize it'd be nice to know before the fire department even gets there, what are they dealing with? So that's one thing that we learned. So with that, I will pass it on to John.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, council members. My name is Jonathan Ahn. I'm the Assistant Director of Route and System Planning here at Metro Transit. I'm also been serving as the operational lead for the Gold Line project. So we're here to highlight some of those activations and implementation efforts that we've been working on some of the Gold Line project elements. We're really folding this new project onto our family of services and operations. So making sure that every single internal department, and especially our frontline employees and operators, understand the differences of BRTs and dedicated infrastructure so that we can really run those smoothly on the opening day. And also we're doing a lot of testing work, testing of a lot of elements that are highlighted here. We see there's red guideway, bar signals, as Alicia said, testing of those bar signal elements, transit signal priority elements. Those are not just the signal that's controlled on the signal controller, those actually communicate with our transponders on the buses so that buses talk to the signals so that buses get extended green time, signal times changes based on those, and working with our municipal and roadway partners to make sure that our buses run smoothly instead of being stopped at red lights. And those are not just for our benefits too, but also to meet the FTA requirements for the project as well. The bottom image is it's a handy corridor profile that developed that shows where those guideway entrance and exit points are and where the bar signals are located, along with pretty color-coded speed limit for those, because we built the guideway, we set our speed limit for those as well. So that we can communicate to our operators and emergency vehicle operators and our agency partners as well. Wanted to highlight a couple more training efforts as well. So Gold Line will operate out of our East Metro garage. Our March service starting March 22nd. The picking, meaning operator choosing to, choosing which route they'll drive, including the Gold Line, that started this past Monday. So operators are picking Gold Line works already, and once we have a sizable chunks of operators choosing Gold Line, hopefully by early next week we'll start garage-led and instruction center-led training activities. So to gearing up for that, we've been developing Gold Line specific standard operating procedures, or SOP. I got a snippet of that in the corner there, and the bottom is classroom materials and our PowerPoint deck with really pretty videos that we developed for those that already approved actually. So we just approved for those. There are a couple more small snippet of item that I wanted to highlight, which was to accommodate Gold Line and our fleet requirements, we are introducing a couple new procedures and maneuvers, and one of them being a relief car, meaning we are introducing a car as a tool to have drivers move to the end of the line and then switch drivers at the end and beginning of the shift instead of driving a bus back and forth. That reduces our fleet requirement and bus requirement, and cars are much cheaper than a bus. So this is a new thing that we're trying out with a Gold Line. And the second thing I got also snippet on the bottom left is as we're adding a lot of services to downtown St. Paul, especially on 5th and 6th Street, we have little concerns about the congestions and making sure that we balance out the bus being able to berth and then do passenger operations and move out. We're introducing I like to call it a mini skip stop process. So there are some routes that will be using Gold Line stations, including Route 21, 54, and 94, those high frequency routes. We will share operations with Gold Line and do a little bit of a skip stop operations in downtown. And I'll hand this over to Adam.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adam Harrington. I'm the Director of Service Development. And just to maybe put a bow on Gold Line as far as the planning that goes into this, a lot of great work has occurred to this point to get to March 22nd. We're really excited about that. This map shows how people can access the Gold Line. So there's a couple different things to pay attention to here. One is the shaded area that represents the boundaries of our Metro Microzone in Woodbury, which started on January 7th. And that's our app-enabled service that people can dial up same day using the app or calling the dispatch center to have a vehicle come to their home or their location and bring them to a station or other areas within this zone. The goal is that we can provide that service within a 20-minute window of when you make that request, you book it. So we think it's pretty competitive, and it's something that we're testing new in this market of a suburb area where fixed route may not be able to reach all the destinations that people like to go. Other suburban partners and providers have been doing this for a while, so this is our first foray into operating in this environment. But we think it's a great way to connect people to Gold Line and throughout Woodbury. So that's up and running and has been running very well, and we're excited to make this connection happen. The other lines on this map show routes that are connecting with the Gold Line, and all these run every half hour, whether they're connecting at the end of the line in Woodbury or at Sunray Shopping Center or intervening stations in between. So we have pretty good access to connect the neighborhoods into Gold Line, and really looking forward to see how our customers respond to that and make their way into downtown St. Paul. And of course, there's a connection downtown with a lot of different destinations, including Minneapolis on the 94 or Green Line. So this is the big picture of what we're putting out on the street for our customers. We're operating every 10 minutes on weekdays and 15 on weekends. So it should be really attractive, and we're looking forward to it. So happy to take any questions, or I can pass it along to.
Go ahead, Judy.
So do we, and I don't know how, it used to be called the 494 Corridor Commission or Coalition, or, but the group that meets, which I can never get to because it's Sunday morning, I can't go to it, but do we work with them too when all of this is opening up as it relates to the larger businesses that are in the areas that we've got in this region to help get their employees out of their cars and then into transit?
Mr. Chair, Council Member, there's a couple different ways to do that. One is it's not in the heart of the 494 corridors area, but we are gonna be going out to the 494 Corridor Commission, I think in the next couple weeks or in March, to give them an overview not only of this, but of the Network Now framework. So we're making that connection, but we're also making that same kind of connection with the city of St. Paul and Woodbury, and we're gonna talk more about those marketing efforts for Gold Line specifically, but the short answer is yes, we are planning to do that. We just have something scheduled to go and visit with them.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, would you just maybe, I'd be interested in going to that one since we'll be presenting if that's okay, so maybe get it on our calendars for some, whoever wants to go to that. I think we might all get invited, I don't know who gets invited, but can't go to all of them, but thank you for that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Adam, do you wanna add something? Brian.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I said Adam.
I had one question for
I was
Adam.
looking at you and saying it.
I was like looking at Adam, like, what do you want to add? My only question, Adam, on the other routes depicted here, non-Gold Line routes on this slide, are any of them changing at all? Or are these the existing route patterns, the Gold Line's overlaying with? I'm just kind of curious, how is that fitting in, if you could mention that?
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the routes is gonna be replaced, which was mentioned earlier, that's the Route 351, which as we sit here today is operating. It's 3 trips in the morning, 3 trips in the afternoon from Woodbury to downtown St. Paul. That's gonna be replaced by Gold Line. Largely, these routes are the same. There's better orientation around the Sunray Shopping Center thanks to the design of that new area. But largely, this is the same. We'll see more service come down from the north section once other changes are made with Network Now.
Thanks.
Other questions? Alright. Grand opening.
And well played on the scarf.
Oh, someone asked me that before. I said, I've been with the project since 2018. I've had this scarf for a while, and the question was, yes, I do wash the scarf, Katie, but I'm Liz Jones. Again, I'm an outreach and engagement lead on Gold Line. I've been with this project for a long time, so I'm really excited. We're finally at opening. It's still hard to believe. I'm also from the East Metro and the East Side, so it's, I love this project, so thanks for having me here. I'm going to talk very briefly about some of our marketing, communications, and outreach efforts and activities that we've been conducting and that we'll conduct through the few months after opening as well. But you can see the image on the right. Obviously, the screen grab was from about over a month ago because we're at about 30 days out, but we have a new landing page on our website that has a countdown clock, includes like minutes, hours and minutes, actually seconds too, so we really know when we're opening if we didn't know already. We've been utilizing this imagery, so it has our marketing tagline of your golden ticket to a faster ride, Gold Line opening March 2025. We've been utilizing that imagery. It's originally created for promotional advertising, so starting in March before opening, and then about a month after we open, we'll have 2 different advertising campaigns. And so the imagery will change a little bit, but focusing on the golden ticket. Billboards, Skyway ads, we have a number of BIPOC media ads, digital, social media, all of those, but we're utilizing this imagery in our other communications and outreach materials as well, so folks have already begun to see that out there. We have, we've put together a toolkit for our agency partners, so we just have a whole host of promotional imagery and content and outreach materials that we've been sharing with our agency and community partners, so folks have been really great about wanting to help promote the event and spread the word and partner as much as they can. We have been continuing throughout the life of the project and still doing a lot of community outreach with pop-ups and attending already existing community events. And so since the beginning of this year, and then we'll also, for a few months after opening, really focusing on opening day, just making sure folks know when the Gold Line will open, talking about our community celebrations, our free rides, which I'll get to in a little bit, as well as just kind of some of the more logistical information of our schedule and how does service work, how does the Gold Line work with other existing routes, kind of those other items as well. Let's see, I'll go to the next slide. Just again, that golden ticket imagery, so it shows kind of our formal billboard and Skyway ad campaign, so that's the pre-Gold Line launch and the post-Gold Line launch ads, but again, we're utilizing this imagery kind of all across the board for all of our communications and outreach materials as well. So hopefully you all have received the invitation. So we are hosting a policymaker tour and reception the day before opening day on March 21st. So we're really, this will be the inaugural Gold Line ride. So when we open for service on the 22nd, Gold Line will start its regular service earlier in the morning. So this will really be a tour of the Gold Line route on the bus guideway, on a Gold Line bus, so offering this to you all and to our corridor policymakers. And then following the tour, we'll have a reception at Union Depot in the Red Cap room. And so many thanks to our county partners who are paying for refreshments and the room space. During the tour, we'll also have opportunity for our city partners at the 5 cities to provide some remarks as we travel through their municipalities as well.
We'll see if the project is under budget after the party.
Right. And then opening day, March 22nd itself, we'll have a traditional ribbon cutting ceremony. This photo is from when we had a ribbon cutting ceremony for the opening of our Bielenberg Bridge. So it was really cold out in November. I'm hoping
It was colder than today.
It was, yes. I'm hoping that in March, we're having 40 some degrees next week, so I'm hoping for about 60 degrees on March 22nd. So my fingers have been crossed for a while. We'll have this ribbon cutting ceremony in Woodbury at our Woodland Drive Park and Ride. So we'll have a program. We have a number of folks who've been invited to provide remarks, including our federal delegation. Of course, Chair Zelli will be our MC. We'll have our county commissioners and MnDOT Commissioner Daubenberger attending as well and providing remarks. Of course, the ribbon and giant scissors photo opportunity will have a lot of media there. We've already had a lot of great media interest and coverage, which I forgot to mention on the earlier slide. But even we heard another member of the media tonight is going out and capturing footage of one of our stations, so we'll hopefully continue to have good coverage before and after opening. We're hosting actually a media tour the week of opening as well for additional media to capture some B-roll footage and again, generate that excitement. But after the ribbon cutting ceremony, we will have a couple buses ready for policymakers and really anyone who gets to the buses the fastest from the community. Just an opportunity to actually take the bus right from Wood Lane Park and Ride to Sunray Park and Ride because we'll have 2 concurrent community celebrations happening. So on the slide here, right after the ribbon cutting ceremony, so the ribbon cutting ceremony will start about 10 o'clock over about 45 minutes. So from 11 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. On Saturday, we'll have community celebrations in both St. Paul at Sunray Park and Ride and in Woodbury at our Wood Lane Park and Ride. And so they'll essentially have similar activities. We'll have music and DJs. We'll have food trucks, fun mascots, everyone's favorite skip traffic mascot. We'll also have Madonna, the St. Paul Saints mascot, so that's really exciting. Clearly Skip and Madonna have met before, so they'll get to hang out again. And we'll have giveaways, activities, and just should be a fun day to just really to bring the communities together in both of these places. Gold Line will be undergoing regular service, so folks can ride the whole Gold Line and kind of go between the events as they would like. Alicia kind of alluded to free rides, so sponsored by our county partners at Washington and Ramsey counties. We're actually doing a week of free rides. So the 22nd, Saturday the 22nd through then that Friday the 28th, we'll have free rides. So that's really exciting. We're going to have staff at the council and at the counties out at each station for this week, and then a couple days after, once we switch to collecting fare payment, just ambassadors at stations letting folks know about the free rides or the transition to payment and just kind of how everything works.
Deb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very excited. It's so nice to see this come to fruition, to see it on time under budget, even better. But it's such a big addition and such an important addition for the east side. And it's a much needed connection that we've needed to see. And I know the communities are really excited about it. I am excited to see that Ramsey and Washington are sponsoring some free rides through the time period, because a lot of it is for getting people used to the system and how to ride. And it seems like it'd be a great opportunity, I think, when I was trying to compel you all to participate, maybe to go out, spend some time on one of the platforms as one of our ambassadors during that week. So it'd be really great to see some of your faces out doing that as well. So, but yeah, congratulations, well done.
Sure.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, great work. This is super exciting, so I just want to second everything that Councilmember Barber was saying. But I have a question about some of the stats that Director Canderas at Leslie was kind of leading with when she introduced this. Do those live somewhere? I would love to have access to those, or the distance of everyone to a station and things like that.
I think some of that was cited at the downtown council meeting today.
So we can get those talking points somewhere.
Sure. Yeah, we'll work on that.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
Welcome, Katie.
All right, you can tell that we're the new project team because we all have different lanyards on. So good evening, Chair and council members. I'm Katie Roth, I'm the Director of Arterial BRT. I'm introducing Frank Alarcon and Adam Smith, respectively, who will speak to the B and E lines coming up next in our network. But before I do, I just kind of want to shift us in thinking about the Gold Line and then back to thinking about Arterial BRT. So, as we get ready to open the B and E lines later this year, a lot of what we're doing is continuing to build on our lessons learned, not only from the Gold Line and the other major transitway projects, but also from our experience building and operating the A, C, and D lines. We are continuing to build on the design of those corridors. We're continuing to iterate and incorporate lessons learned. But really, we're transitioning from delivering a couple of projects into now really much more of a program of arterial BRT lines. So for our customers, we talk a lot about how the Metro network means fast, frequent, all-day service with a lot of amenities and a lot of a great customer experience. But there are a few key differences in how we think about the Gold Line as opposed to the B and E lines. So I want to note a couple of those as we get into the B and E lines. Obviously, one of the key differences is the scale of investment and the scale of infrastructure. So Alicia spoke at length about the guideway that we're building with the Gold Line. On arterial BRT, we're focused really on overlaying and fitting into existing arterial streets. So you'll see that has guided so much of how these two projects have been planned and designed in partnership with our local cities and counties, and how we're continuing to wrap up elements to get ready for opening days later this year. Integrating into places where we already have service, frequent service on arterial BRT also means that we often aim to open our stations for our customers in more of a rolling basis, making those amenities available to people before an opening day 115 and 290 days from now. So we've been able to deliver some of those benefits on the B line. We're continuing that on the E line. You'll see that in the presentations. And then finally, rather than use a project office model for arterial BRT, we staff these projects with a really integrated internal Metro Transit team. And I just want to call that out. This right sizes our staffing to the scale of these projects and also reflects that program that we're continuing to build out. So while you'll hear from folks on the arterial BRT team today, they are integrated in a project team with construction staff from our engineering and facilities department and our fantastic outreach coordinators. So it really takes a full team effort to deliver these projects. And ultimately, when it comes to transitioning to operations and marketing these services, we take a lot of the same pages from the playbook. So you'll hear about the current status of projects today, but as opening days draw nearer for these two lines, we do look forward to coming back to the council to speak more to opening days, transitions to operation, and more of those details that you just heard about on the Gold Line. So with that, I'm gonna hand it off to Frank to focus first on Beeline.
Great, thank you, Katie. Chair, council members, and Frank Alarcon, manager of BRT projects. So the Beeline is the corridor currently served by the Route 21, which is our highest ridership local bus route. Over 106,000 people live along this corridor, live within a 10-minute walk of the corridor. Over 40% of that population is BIPOC. Planning for the Beeline began in 2019 and concluded in 2021 with the council's approval of the Beeline Corridor Plan, which defined the station and platform locations for the project and was informed by substantial community engagement throughout that planning process. Then we moved into design from 2021 to 2023, producing construction-ready plans for the Beeline. And during this phase of the project, there was also a lot of engagement with our jurisdictional partners at the city and the county, or the cities and the counties, I should say, along the line, developing agreements through which we collaboratively constructed elements between our agencies. And I'll talk more about a key partnership on the Beeline with Hennepin County and Minneapolis in just a few minutes. Construction on the Beeline started in spring of 2023 and was underway throughout the full 2023 and 2024 construction seasons. At this point, most of the construction work is done. There's still some systems work and some testing to do, but we are well on our way to opening up the Beeline on June 14th. So the Beeline's budget, like other transitway investments, is a mix of federal, state, and local and regional dollars. This is the mix on the Beeline. As you can see, the state component is the largest one, and within that state bucket, state bonds are the primary funding source coming from the 2020 legislative session. The federal funds in the Beeline project were secured through the regional solicitation process. This $74 million authorized budget figure is an updated figure reflecting some recent changes that have gone through council. One of them is the shifting of unused D-line contingency funds into the B-line's contingency funds. And the other is the recent December 2024 shifts of local scope into the Beeline project budget. And I should also mention that in addition to the $74 million authorized budget, through agreements with our local partners, we've incorporated a significant amount of additional construction of safety and accessibility improvements along this corridor, both on the Minneapolis and the St. Paul side.
Frank, did Hennepin County get a raise grant to help do improvements along the corridor? That's not part of our budget.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. That is not part of the Beeline project budget, but it is money that flowed through the Beeline construction contract to deliver locally requested safety and accessibility improvements on Lake Street.
Got it.
Great, and that gives me a good segue to talk a little bit more about Lake Street. So
glad you asked.
You're welcome, John.
So Lake Street, of course, really important corridor in running through South Minneapolis. It was reconstructed by Hennepin County between 2006 and 2008. Unfortunately, following that reconstruction, it did emerge as the highest crash corridor in the city of Minneapolis and in Hennepin County. So there was a major safety need to address, and the implementation of the Beeline provided a really great opportunities for partners at the city, county, and Metro Transit to come together on a plan to holistically address those safety issues at the same time as implementation of the Beeline. So this photo was taken shortly before Beeline and Lake Street construction most recently. It's kind of the before shot. Here's the after shot. It's a different time of year. There's some snow on the ground in this photo. But there's some kind of key differences that you can see post-construction. For one, there's a B-line station on the right side of this, this photo. But additional to that B-line station, you see a bus lane headed westbound in red. It's slightly covered by snow, but you can still see that red peeking through it. You see a more visible crosswalk. You see a new signal, upgraded pedestrian ramps, and a shorter crossing distance due to the bump out that the BRT platform is on. Lastly, there's new pavement as well, so a smooth new pavement surface. So another way to look at kind of the relationship between the B-line improvements and the city and county funded and raise grant supported Lake Street improvements is kind of from above in this image. So in this image, you can see the B-line stations are shown in yellow, but they're complemented by that bus lane, pedestrian improvements at basically all the corners, new pavement surface, and really importantly, the implementation of that bus lane enabled what's commonly referred to as a 4-to-3 conversion of the rest of Lake Street. So the remaining 3 lanes that aren't bus lanes are one general traffic lane in each direction, and really importantly for safety, a center turn lane. So that center turn lane allows turning drivers to have a lane to wait in to make their turn, which eliminates a lot of the kind of unsafe weaving behavior that we were seeing in the previous version of Lake Street when it was a 4-lane undivided.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just a question on this thing. This is really good to see. I was on the Minneapolis City Council during the reconstruction of 2006 to 2008 and in several years of the design process as well. There was a huge advocates pushed for this 4-to-3 conversion back then, and this road diet, and the county didn't want anything to do with that. Actually, they prohibited us from talking about it through the design process. So it's good to see progress here, and then always along Lake Street, one of the big questions to support the small businesses is about parking, and so where's the, on what we're looking at here, this overhead view, where's the parking here, on-street parking?
Yes, thank you, council members. So the parking was largely unaffected through this work because of the, in both directions, that's right. And that's because the previous condition, the condition that emerged from that 2008 reconstruction had bump outs already, and so the parking was already offset. And so implementing the bus lane and the 4-to-3 conversion didn't actually result in the removal of any curbside parking.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And there's no bike lane.
That's correct. This is not a bike corridor.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
There were, I should say, I think I said there was no impact to parking. There was some very small scale impacts due to B-line stations and some other small details, but broadly speaking, the parking was left intact on Lake Street.
Thank you.
All right, so throughout construction, over the last 2 construction seasons, our community engagement team, led first by Cody Olson and then by Sia Bell, have taken lessons from previous BRT projects, the D-line, the C-line, and used them to come up with this great mix of different methods to reach stakeholders early and often across the corridor. So I won't read every method here, but just some of the highlights that are quantifiable from this effort is over 40,000 addresses received a postcard to make them aware of the upcoming construction and to provide contact information. Our team knocked over 4,000 doors, both before construction and during construction, to raise awareness and make a connection, provide contact information. Our community engagement coordinators held office hours over 60 times and sent weekly newsletters over 50 times throughout the last 2 construction seasons. And as we,
Just
Go
briefly, so when you're door knocking a lot of small businesses along the corridor, and just typical feedback, were they, fretting about losing customers, or, were they like, hey, this has been great, or somewhere in between? Did you get that kind of feedback? And were you, when you knock on a door, you never know who you're gonna, it could be the part-time somebody or the owner or somebody. So just briefly, what kind of feedback did you get?
Councilmember, Mr. Chair, is definitely a mix of feedback. I think, kind of depends on the timing of that door knock. When it's pre-construction, it's usually just kind of, thank you for sharing the information. If it's during construction and it's been, a challenging week in the construction arena, it might be a more difficult conversation. A lot of the times the conversations can be very pragmatic. It's, what time is the noisy activity gonna happen so that a restaurant owner can think about that in relation to their activities. So it's a lot of that kind of tactical problem solving that ends up happening when you're right in the thick of construction.
And just quickly, like with transit, we've got apps and people can text for help and alert that there are things happening. Do we have any kind of technology that we could put in the hands of business owners in corridors that could just simply get to a website or be able to, in real time, let us know about what's going on? I know we don't just rely on a visit to them for feedback for sure, and they probably have numbers that they can call, but I just don't know, not for today, but just how technology in real time can help and maybe alleviate some of the frustrations real frustrations that business owners have.
Yeah, definitely, Councilmember, one thing we did provide was a construction hotline that anyone could call at any time, and we're committed to really quick response times through that hotline. I don't think there was texting capability, but I do think that's something worth considering, just to be as accessible as possible.
Appreciate that, and I don't know, I don't need to know, but do you track how many calls you actually got? Just because I always, that feedback loop is good, I think good for all of us to know how it's going, because it's continuous improvement as you move on to the next project too.
Councilmember, absolutely, we do keep track of the calls that come in, as well as the emails, and the door knocking interactions are also recorded, so we do make an effort to collect that data.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barber.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So a lot of what I think our ABRT office is really, really good at this on the ground, door to door, face to face kind of community engagement. One of the good examples, like your point of using technology, is just for the businesses in this particular area when they were having accessibility issues, they got in touch with their rep. There's a QR code that tells you how they're open, what their hours, how to get there. So, it's like they do both listen but also come up with solutions to help the businesses in the areas in real time.
Awesome, thank you.
Councilmember Chambers.
Thank you. I know especially during the construction phase, we heard a lot about the engagement and the feedback about, for example, the parking needs of the businesses. What are some of the key things that were learned during the engagement in terms of, I see that there are 41,000 addresses that received postcards. When is the best time to get those postcards out? I know we can't send out 41,000 on, a regular basis. So was that something new to do that many addresses?
Chair, council members, I might just jump in to take a step back and think a little bit more broadly about not just specifically the B line and what we're looking at on the screen, but more broadly how we're building in that sort of feedback cycle in ABRT. And so I think just taking your most recent question around the postcards, that does represent a change above and beyond what we had done on previous projects, was to signal those construction phases that were upcoming and really get those physical notices in the mailboxes of business owners, people attached to the property address, so the taxpayer, but really also the tenants and making sure we were hitting all those bases there. So I'll just say that we continue to build on that. And we also undertake lessons learned work internally to feed from one project into the next, to continue to take a look at what did we actually hear and how can we learn from that and apply. So does that address your question in this space?
Perfect, Katie, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and on the topic of lessons learned, it just so happens that the photo in the bottom right of this slide represents a lesson that we learned in real time. So that signage on Selby Avenue informing people about businesses being opened was something that we didn't necessarily plan to have in advance, but as we heard feedback from businesses who were concerned, we moved pretty quickly to establish that signage. And so that's something that we're probably going to be doing more and more of and more proactively in future projects. And I'll just say on engagement, even though Beeline,
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, I just wanted
Go ahead, Tony.
please.
that very same feedback, having heard from the businesses, I think the community engagement folks were great, and establishing the meetings in the community during that construction period was very helpful. The one thing I would say is it's never timely to give these notices. And so people, focused on their businesses and those challenges, sometimes were unaware that they had heard from us. And that's a lot of the feedback that you got during that period of time. And so they weren't prepared for those parking issues and directional issues. As soon as they communicated, there were responses, and very quick responses from the project office. And there was relationship created along the Selby Avenue corridor that I think can benefit us into the future. One thing I would say is that that door knocking that you did, maybe should be done closer to project start. I know it's important to do the outreach early, and maybe the postcards are what that is. But that door knocking and the real visibility needs to be close to the start of the project, and an emphasis on close to, so that people can't say they had not heard from us. They may have forgotten that they heard from us. But in this case, we just want to make sure they're very aware and prepared for this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. I agree with you completely. And I think kind of in the same vein, another lesson that we learned is, we do door knocking and other really personalized engagement throughout all the phases of the project. But at a particular storefront, the cafe that might have been at a particular address in the planning phase might be, a burger joint in the engineering phase, and then a different business in construction. And so while you've been to that address, you might have not necessarily spoken to the same business or the same person. And so it's really important to don't knock just once, keep coming back so that you're interacting with the people who are going to be there and who are going to feel the impacts of construction. Great. So even though Beeline construction is not is basically done at this point, we are going to be kind of continuing the momentum that we've built during construction and carrying that up to June 14th. So our outreach team and our marketing team are working very hard to, and then after Gold Line opens, I will be building awareness about the upcoming Beeline launch and building excitement about it as well, so that the community is ready for that change. Another thing I want to bring attention to with the Beeline is that while Beeline service itself doesn't start until June 14th, the infrastructure that's been delivered through this project, both Beeline stations and all the local improvements, have become available to the public largely prior to opening day. So in winter 2023, at the end of our first construction season, the 27 new BRT platforms that we constructed that year became available to our local bus customers, and those new shelters had light and heat available to those customers. Very similar story at the end of 2024. In October, we opened the Lake and Chicago Beeline station for local customers, and that was in coordination with the closure of the Chicago Lake Transit Center, which was discussed at Transportation Committee and Council. And then a couple months later, in December 2024, we opened the remaining 15 new Beeline platforms with shelters and light and heat. So while Beeline isn't open for another 4 months, the benefits are being felt already. And so I'll kind of round out our Beeline segment today with a little tour of construction photos, starting from the east and moving west. And so our journey here starts on the western edge of downtown St. Paul at Smith and Kellogg. And the reason for that is that while the Beeline goes all the way to Union Depot, it will kind of east of this location, it will use stations delivered by the Gold Line project on 5th and 6th Street. So really, the Beeline construction that the Beeline project led begins here at Smith and Kellogg at this station, which is one of our unique and our more unusual Beeline stations, because it doesn't have its own typical shelter, but it's actually integrated into the existing parking ramp and Transit Center at Smith Avenue. So our crews improve the pedestrian environment connecting to this station and have added amenities to make this space BRT ready. Here's John Marshall and Ireland. This is a much more typical arterial BRT station. This photo is from September 2023, right after the shelter had been installed and crews were wiring the shelter up for the light and heat that provides a better waiting experience for our customers there. This is Selby and Victoria. Both the eastbound and the westbound are visible in this photo. Kind of a nice example of our stations integrating into a nice walkable stretch of Selby.
Is this where you had the box issue with Moscow on the Hudson? And I just thought it was a very clever solution to allow it to be painted in a way that the restaurant wanted.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and a shout out to Mark Grenland, our public art administrator, for working with us on a decorative wrap for that cabinet to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing.
I just thought it was really great that rather than just kind of fight or defer, that there's a solution that everybody felt good about it, better about.
Thank you. What was the solution?
There was a utility box near the restaurant, and they're really upset about this new big thing. And rather than kind of move it, I mean, they really kind of said, you know, we have an artist in residence, and maybe we can confer with them. How would they like it? How would the restaurant like it designed? Actually, kind of let them be engaged in the process of making it kind of an aesthetic that would fit for them and actually improve the streetscape.
Great.
I think that's it. Is that what
Just
happened?
east.
That's what happened.
Okay, good. Make sure I get it right.
Great. Now we're on the Minneapolis side. A big part of the local Lake Street improvements were this mill and overlay. Mill and overlay is a very literal term. The top few inches of street gets literally milled off and overlaid with a fresh coat of asphalt. And so this photo kind of shows that that process underway. And as you can see, the nature of this work allowed us to do this work kind of half the street at a time, which enabled us to keep traffic in both directions open on Lake Street the whole time. So as you can see on the left side of this this photo, that portion of street has been milled and is awaiting its overlay, and then the section on the right has just gotten its fresh coat of asphalt. And so this process played out throughout the whole Lake Street corridor to deliver that smooth new pavement surface. Here's Lake Street Midtown. So this is the transfer point between will be the transfer point between the B line and the blue line, LRT. So this was a very busy and active area in 2024 because in addition to our station construction that's in the photo, MnDOT led a full reconstruction of the Hiawatha and Lake interchange, which is kind of right behind the photographer. And so there's a lot of coordination with MnDOT, both at the staff level and at the contractor level, to deliver all these improvements during the same construction season, and it worked out. Here, just a little bit west of there, an example of some of the safety improvements that we constructed through agreement with Hennepin County. This is a pedestrian refuge in the middle of a non-signalized intersection. Now we're back at Lake and Bloomington. Some typical station construction is underway here. Just something to note, right behind that orange plastic fencing is what we call the Temporary Pedestrian Access Route, or TPAR. It allows pedestrians to safely move past the construction site and access businesses or other places in the area. We really work closely with our contractors to make sure they're allowing that pedestrian access insofar as it is safe and possible adjacent to their work sites. Here's Lake in Chicago, shortly before that station opened in the fall. You can see crews installing the new pylon there in anticipation of that station opening at the same time as the closure of the Lake in Chicago Transit Center. Here's an aerial shot of an intersection that received a lot of local improvement. So Lake and DuPont is the intersection where Lake Street splits into Lake and Lagoon, and Lake and Lagoon serve as one-way pairs. So there's a lot of complexity to this intersection, and these improvements made it a lot simpler, a lot safer. There's some nice refuges for pedestrians, more visible crosswalks. Of course, the bus lanes are in there. There's also some green stormwater infrastructure as part of this design as well.
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, quick question too about, the red bus lanes, which is great, because you can't miss them, unless it's winter, but then, it's Minnesota anyway. But how did it work? We had a pretty easy winter, but, when those winters that, give us big snowfalls, how does it work? Because I noticed my daughter just moved to Uptown not long ago, so I'm like, the snow was coming, I'm like, the lanes are there's nowhere to go. Like, pretty soon you have to be in the bus lane, or the bus has to be in the, so how, do we just work with our local, public works crews to get out there and plow as soon as possible, or remove it out of the street? Cause that was challenging, just, and I get it, it's Minnesota, but there's just nowhere to put this stuff in a lane or on a sidewalk, cause somebody's gonna be impacted, so I'm just curious how we work with the locals who have to plow this. To keep it, like, are there priority roads maybe that they go there first or more often, or?
Yeah, Councilmember, I'll start. Yeah, that's a really great question. Winters can be challenging for bus lanes because of that storage issue. Because in the case of Lake Street is a major arterial, so it's kind of already by nature it's a priority route for the local entities that plow it. So that definitely helps. But would you like to add?
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, Council Member, this is a really good example of where the scale of how we make these improvements is just a little bit different on arterial BRT, where there is an existing maintenance agreement in place between city and county when it comes to dealing with snow on this street. And so through this project, we've certainly changed that lane configuration, but that function and that relationship remains intact. I'll say that we do, certainly through our operations team, have a lot of ongoing relationships with our street authority partners that help to inform a lot of these discussions on an ongoing basis. But by and large, the approach to clearing snow in these areas remains largely as it was before that bus lane was implemented, and when that curbside space would have been a general purpose lane as opposed to a bus lane.
Totally agree. This works in a state for sure that doesn't get snow. So I just assume there are gonna be times where you just have to scooch and watch out for each other, which drivers and bus drivers should be doing anyway, but I just was like, wow, this is tight in here and it's an easy year. So I think it's great. I'm just, just wondering if people give that kind of feedback too, when, oh my gosh, here we are, 15 inches of snow and you can't even see the lanes anymore, but I'm not dissing the project, it's just Minnesota. And I think on paper it all looks great, but we get this practicality of, snow sometimes, so that's all.
And Mr. Chair and Council Member, I think one more point I would bring to this discussion is as we think about things like pedestrian bump outs, as we think about things like green boulevards, those are great for pedestrians and they're also great for snow storage. And those are the types of perspectives our roadway design partners are bringing to these projects as well. So it's very much a factor as we're working through these designs and with our partners.
And I can appreciate, this is historic, first of all, it's native land. And it's historic as it's developed over the years. And that's why I, typically have represented, of course, suburbia, which can plan for that. They can get ahead of that, right? And so it's just more challenging, but it's urban and that's okay too.
How long does the red paint last?
Yeah, I wondered about that
I
too.
think we all kind of wonder that. I know we'll hear about Hennepin, because that's pretty faded, but that's under construction.
We're buying it in bulk, right?
So the red paint that we use is called MMA, which is an abbreviation for a chemical word that I'm not going to try to say in front of all of you. And we plan for it to last about 5 years, so we assume about a 5-year replacement cycle.
And Mr. Chair, that runoff is not then going to be toxic, correct?
Mr.
Just
Chair,
checking.
Council Member,
It's forever paint. It's
I
forever paint.
just, that's, you have to think differently now about what we're putting down on anything, so.
as the MMA, it's not paint, the technical experts would tell me that, as it is applied, as soon as it hardens, it becomes an inert material. And so that is the response to the question of how does that become a runoff consideration.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, just a few more beeline.
Ironically, DuPont intersection, sorry.
Have fun with that.
All right, just a few more construction photos here. This is Lagoon and Hennepin. So the building on the right is the Uptown Library. This is one of the beeline platforms that was constructed by the city of Minneapolis on behalf of Metro Transit through an agreement. So city of Minneapolis, as many of you know, had its first year of Hennepin Avenue South reconstruction last year, and both the beeline and the E-line, which we'll hear about more, had agreements with Minneapolis to deliver some of our infrastructure as part of that project. And here's another aerial of the new Lagoon Avenue. A lot of the same things we've been talking about: bus lanes, pedestrian improvements. It's also just a really nice day that this photo was taken on.
The lake looks great.
Yeah.
A new bikeway was added through our construction effort as part of the local improvements connecting Badema-Casca and Uptown. So you can see crews here applying the green paint that indicates a bicycle facility. And lastly, now we're at the very western edge of the Beeline corridor, and this is the operator restroom facility under construction. These are really important facilities for our workforce. So important that it felt appropriate to have a little celebration in December.
I like that.
None on the trees.
No.
So this facility has been in use by local bus operators since December, and starting in June, Beeline operators will use it. With that, I'll hand it to Adam Smith to talk about the E-line.
All right, thank you, Frank. So I'm going to talk a bit about the E-line, which will upgrade Route 6, which is another of our region's highest ridership local routes. So again, similar to the B-line, there's a lot of people along this corridor, about 113,000 people within a 10-minute walk or roll of this corridor, of whom more than a quarter identify as BIPOC. In terms of just where we've been for the E-line process in 2018, 2019, really things got started with a corridor study to look at the alignment and termini for the E-line. That moved into the corridor plan process in 2020 through 2022, where again, those station and platform locations were finalized and then, ultimately approved by the council through a final corridor plan. Following that step, we moved into a detailed design phase, preparing the project for construction. And again, in this phase, really a heavy focus on developing those critical interagency agreements that you've heard a lot about and will continue hearing about here for the next few minutes. And then last year, construction got started for the E-line and will be in construction through the remainder of this year as well, towards a December 6th opening day for the E-line. A little bit on E-line funding, $64 million is the authorized budget. Again, reflecting what we've heard on the B-line, there's an additional funding that Hennepin County and the city of Minneapolis have brought to construction of improvements along the E-line corridor that are being delivered in coordination. So $11 million in addition to what the E-line project budget is. So, agency partnerships again are absolutely critical in terms of how the delivery of the E-line has been shaped. So whereas the B-line constructed a long linear portion on behalf of our partners, on the E-line we've had quite a few platforms that have been constructed through linear projects led by partner agencies. In fact, 25 of the 66 E-line platforms have been or will be constructed in such a fashion. Projects led by the city of Minneapolis, Hennepin County, and MnDOT. Here are a couple examples of those platforms that were constructed through the county's project on University and 4th near the University of Minnesota. And here, Hennepin Avenue in Northeast, another county-led project, and the Hennepin Avenue project in Uptown led by the city of Minneapolis. So, again, 2024 was an extremely active year of construction in our region, and just want to highlight, really a big goal of coordinating a lot of this construction with other projects where we can is really to try to minimize the disruption that happens in multiple years, and really try to concentrate as much of that work as we can, working with our partner agencies in these areas. And then again, the flip side of this coordination is where our partners have brought their funding into our construction contracts to deliver these additional improvements. Many of these, in the case of Hennepin County and City of Minneapolis and the E-Line, have really focused on pedestrian safety. And you can see some of the improvements here. There's a new median going in near France and 54th Street, a new bump out there being constructed near France and 44th. Here's a new signal being installed at Sheridan and 43rd, and installation of what will be a shared fiber optic connection, the conduit there being installed along 36th Street. So again, reflecting a lot of the lessons learned throughout the development of the arterial BRT program, not least with the experience of the B-Line. We've taken a lot of those same tactics and approaches, and Eric Thompson, the community outreach coordinator for the E-Line, has been tireless in really trying to get the word out about E-Line construction, answering questions through a variety of different venues, again trying to reach folks where we can through postcards and mailings, through emails, through those in-person door knocking and office hour opportunities, as well as sort of more group presentations and frankly just a lot of individual emails and phone conversations as well.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to comment, I thought you guys did a great job of responding to the local businesses on both 50th and France and 43rd and Upton over the construction period there, and there was a lot of challenges. They would jump up, and we got to a point where it was weekly meetings, I think it was, over at Linden Hills. So thank you for the work here, because it was, and rightfully so. They lost a lot of business there, and it wasn't just our project. It was the city of Minneapolis and the water work they were doing over there. And every time I turned around, I think both Angela and I were kind of, okay, what's happening? We said next week. That ain't happening. They said, we said next. So I just appreciate sticking with it.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So thank you. I'm the former director of the 50th and France Business Association, so thanks for Deb and just the team for coming out when we were doing our listening sessions early on in the project. I know they were frustrated. They probably still are, but I think, it's just hard. Change is hard, but when just while I worked there, I mean, there were pipes bursting in the street and the county would have to come and rip it up, and then the city had a thing and they were doing something out there. And I was saying, hopefully all that infrastructure is fixed by the time we're in it, but I think even when we were digging, maybe there were some other things uncovered. And having gone through COVID and it just for some of those small businesses, it was just like almost the nail in the coffin, quite frankly. So, I appreciate that progress has to happen, but again, just as in all of these projects, there are going to be folks that are just collateral damage along the way, but the stick-to-itiveness of them and you guys doing the best you can, because nobody has a crystal ball to know what things are going to delay a project or what we're going to uncover in, again, a very old, historic, quite frankly, part of the city. So I just know that there's tension, and I think that's why, all of us appreciate our business community. Some of us are more steeped into it and really understand that it could mean going out of business, for sure. And then parking on France was a big deal because people developed the curbside pickup habit with restaurants, and that was lost. So I'm not complaining. I might have done that prior. I'm in sympathy, but I do appreciate that the faster we can get these projects done, the better. And then knock on wood, they get a nice long haul of normalcy over there. And I know it's not just this section, but I was deep into it over there. But thank you for your work on this.
Absolutely. And the pipes burst on 50th and I think DuPont just last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're dealing with old infrastructure.
Yeah, no, I really do appreciate your responsiveness. We all were getting regular tours and we probably learned a few things along the way, maybe what's things we could put in the contract in terms of timing. But anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for those comments, and again, you know, it goes into, I think, that theme of continuous improvement and always trying to learn and take what works and improve what we can on the next project. I will share just a few photos here of construction on the E-line over the past year. Here you see electrical equipment going into a shelter at France and 58th Street. This is just last month. Here's some conduit communications and electrical connections to a platform at France and 50th. Some of the pavers being installed at France and 50th as well. Crews putting down a new roadway surface here along France just south of 44th back in November. Preparation for pouring a new platform at 44th Street and Abbott. Here you see that platform being poured at Sheridan and 43rd, that specialized concrete color that really marks the platform area at BRT stations. Here's the foundation for the pylon and shelter at Hennepin and 33rd Street. And one thing I'll note here is that, you know, this station had a little bit more of a smaller scope because and a number of years ago, the city of Minneapolis rebuilt this roadway with the E-line in mind. So you'll see that the existing curb here was in place, and all of the work that we needed to do was behind the curb. And again, here going all the way to the northern end of the corridor, we've got a operator restroom facility that we're constructing for the E-line as well. And here you can see the foundation for that being poured in January. And here I'll just mention, you know, this kind of the status of where we are. You see those gray circles are the places where construction has been substantially completed, and the blue circles are what we've got on the plate for 2025. So here's the southern portion of the corridor and then the northern portion of the corridor as well. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Adam Harrington to talk a bit about service on this work.
Yeah, Ryan.
Just, thanks, Mr. Chair. One question, because the chair and I were in a meeting earlier today where we were told no one rides the buses, they're all empty, you know, that common refrain. I just wanted to, so ridership on the B line or in the 21 corridors, somewhere between 10 and 12,000 a day, is that about right?
I think pre-pandemic, that sounds about right. Post-pandemic, it's still really, really strong.
Okay, and then what's the ridership on the 6 or that becoming the E line, any sense?
Yeah.
6,500 range, I think.
It's good to know that there's, you know, under existing, I mean, this is somewhere around 18,000 individuals a day we're talking about riding across these two lines. It's helpful conversationally when we're out talking about the program, so I just appreciate it.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, just a quick question on the 6. Now, I'm still a little confused, but the 6 is right by my house, that's one I use. So are we going, once we get to Sheridan and 39th there, are we going up Xerxes? Are we going up France?
Mr. Chair, this is an excellent transition to Adam's portion of the presentation.
Adam.
Fantastic, thank you, Mr. Chair, council members. To answer your question, we're gonna be going at France with the E-line. Xerxes will be covered by the local route 6 in this case. So there will still be service on Xerxes, still be service on France. E-line's going on France. So that's the big difference here. But the big picture on all of this I wanted to start out with is there's a lot of great work going on throughout this whole project. We talked about ridership, it's a significant part of the ridership. What's different about these projects than Gold Line is we're able to actually start ramping up the service levels so we can get our workforce in place. So for the Route 21, for example, we've been operating for a year over to France and using this great new restroom that you saw a picture of, which is really important for these operators when you know that there's 20, 30 people every day going through there back and forth. So it's a really great service for them and that results in great service for our customers. So it's gonna be operating every 10 minutes, all the BRTs on Lake Street and on E-line will have 10-minute frequency. We'll have the nice facilities that you saw, and some of the big changes are exactly the question that Councilmember Pacheco had is, well, what's changing to my route? So on this map, this illustrates kind of the summation of both E and B line. B line Route 21 being replaced, and that local service, you'll see the green line on here. We used to have a route called Route 27 that was suspended back in 2021 that serves 26th and 28th Street. Now we went out with Network Now to say we're gonna run the Route 21 to provide that service between the stations for people who might still need to use it. But then we heard from students and parents of students who go to South High School who live just north of Lake Street, and so we're able to provide that kind of coverage there with this route and serve Lake Street. We also have a new Route 38, which combines the Route 23 and 612 on 38th Street, and that will come up to Lake Street and serve the corridor between DuPont and on west across Lake Street. So there's where the Cub Foods is there, and you saw the split at Lagoon, there'll be even more service there to provide that local stop pickup there. We are gonna be, in the course of this year, extending some of our Route 6 trips, more of them all the way over to Westgate. We already serve the U of M now with some of them, but not all of them. So just like with Route 21, where we ramped up the service to get to where it is on B-line, make a good transition, we're aiming to do the same thing with Route 6, so you probably see more service on Route 6 as we lead up towards our December opening. So that's the Minneapolis side there. On the Selby side, on B-line, we have Route 70, which will be providing that local connection up to Midway Shopping Center. You know, today on the Route 21, it provides that direct trip up to University Avenue, and so that's not going to be there anymore because we wanna make sure our BRTs are running as close to a straight alignment as we can, so that service that we provide today will be provided by Route 70. We did a lot of analysis of our ridership to know where are they going and what portion of that route is serving that area. That whole part of Route 21 west of the river, pretty much everyone does their shopping west of the river. When we go east of the river, most of the people going to the Midway Shopping Center are coming from Selby and points east, so that's why we're making that connection with Route 70, where people wouldn't have to make a transfer. You can certainly still get there by transferring to A-line, but this just continues to provide that direct service. So that's the summary of what we're doing here with these routes and the restructuring. We're really looking forward to it. B-line's in the works as we speak in our scheduling department, so we're putting things together now. E-line right on the heels, we've got our buses in play, and so everything's looking good. It's a great team effort, and the BRT team does a great job.
Go ahead.
And you know, so a little thing like the Edina Art Fair happens, so you guys are working with them, obviously, do we reroute? Or how do we, plow through, don't know, that's not the right word to use, I retract that. With, my 80,000 people coming into that intersection within, 2 days, how does that work? Cause I know there was, you could go around like on Market Street and we could divert the buses then. Does that still work for the E-line?
Yeah, so we'll work with the event organizers about what the right routing is to get through there. And oftentimes we end up detouring around.
Yeah, okay, that's good, thanks.
All right,
Thank you.
that's it, okay, thanks Katie, thanks everyone. But all this can't happen unless we're prepared. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember, once again, Jonathan Allen, Assistant Director of System Planning. Here to talk once again about, we have 3 large transitway openings this year. In addition to that, just making sure that we're holding it on to the existing systems and our infrastructure. So we have colleagues from all different departments, including bus operations, bus transportation, maintenance, marketing, our PD partners. And we just wanted to share a little bit of work highlighting on the system-wide efforts and how we build, operate, and market this 2025 efforts this year. And I'm really happy to report that we are projecting full staffing for 2025 BRT openings. Operator staffing has been a really heavy challenges with bus transportation since, especially with COVID, we've been always under. Right now, we're projecting as of right now, March, we are requiring, so we need about 1,200 operators to meet the schedules that we schedule for the March service pick. We're projecting by that time, we're probably gonna have 1,343 operators, meaning we're over the need at that time. We continue that trend till end of the year, and we will be projecting the full staffing for those. And that's just for bus operators, but there are additional resources required, not just bus operators, including our frontline maintenance staff, our supervisors on the field, supervisors at a transit control center. So there are active hiring efforts to make sure that we don't miss those supervisory gaps and also maintenance gaps for those additional support staffing and maintenance needs. And I will hand it over to Marilyn about those facility maintenance.
Good evening, I'm Marilyn Porter, Director of Engineering Facilities. So my team started about a year ago, engineering facilities, specifically facilities maintenance. We started about a year or two ago with forming work groups related to staffing, work group related to building readiness, and also spare parts. Think about spare parts. Yes, they're new facilities, but they do get hit, right? So these work groups really, in terms of the staffing piece, we updated our staffing forecast and our route planning. We really initiated business processes, business improvements. We focused on optimizing maintenance routes, and also we improved the ways in which we use the data. So I think we really did a good job on the metrics. And we also prioritized how we deployed our staff as well. Cleaning and repair standards, again, in alignment with our adopted cleaning and repair standards, we streamlined reporting facilities issues via customers and employees, and in turn we associated this information with work orders. So we tried to tie that together, and then just continuous coordination across all divisions. I always say it takes a village. Space and equipment. A recent action that came before the Transportation Committee and eventually the Council was the lease of 345 Industrial Boulevard, and so this space will accommodate our future needs and prepare us for future lines to come. Our O&M agreements, Alicia talked about that, but goal line agreements executed, as she said, with various stakeholders detailing maintenance responsibilities, including snow removal. So again, excellent work was done in preparation of the opening, and other work is ongoing. So we realize that what we do now will prepare us for future lines. So a lot of good work. Thank you.
Chair, council members, good afternoon. My name is Joe Dotseth. I'm the interim chief of police at Metro Transit, and I'm here to talk about system-wide presence. Really, our system-wide presence plan for any additional lines is very, very simple to what we've been talking about in the Safety Security Action Plan. So we know the Safety Security Action Plan works. You know, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. We're seeing the results of that. So as new lines are added, that's our plan. It's the Safety Security Action Plan. This slide here really highlights that. So there'll be police officers out there on the system, trip agents, the Real-Time Information Center, which for us, you know, I talk about this quite often. The Real-Time Information Center, much like the Safety Security Action Plan, was a real game changer for us to have operators up there all the time, constantly looking at surveillance systems and cameras throughout the system. Our community service officer, which is rapidly growing, and they'll be out on the system. Supplemental security is certainly an option. And then the community-based partnerships that we have throughout the system all of the stuff that we're currently doing, the safety security action plan, and that we're currently seeing work on the system will be part of the plan for system-wide readiness for all the additional lines. Along with that, the stations, of course, throughout the system, they're equipped with emergency call buttons, the security cameras that the real-time information center is monitoring, will obviously be there, the text for safety stuff, which people definitely use, which is great. It helps the dispatch center and the officers respond to stuff. And then again, back to the buses having security cameras and the text for safety information in there. But it's a simple slide up there, but it's really a process that does work. And again, that will be our model for all the additional lines that we're adding. So with that,
It's great, all we talked about safety in one slide, kind of the whole package.
That's it.
Mr. Chair, council members, I'm Maria Cohn, I'm the manager of market development, Metro Transit. To support all three of the new BRT lines, we developed a BRT awareness campaign, and this is to focus on the benefits of rapid transit. We want to build awareness of the speed, convenience, and reliability which is integral to the use and support of BRT in our area. This campaign is meant to remind people of the benefits of rapid transit before the grand opening campaigns start, and to inform riders, potential riders, and businesses in the communities within the rapid line service areas. This BRT brand awareness campaign will launch about a month before each corridor-specific launch. What you see here are some examples of the social media ads that we have running. We want to promote the key message of fewer stops and increased frequency, which all equals less stop, more go. We really want to reinforce that we all benefit when we invest in public transportation. This digital-based campaign will be geographically focused along the Gold Line corridor from St. Paul to Woodbury and everywhere in between. It includes video, paid social media, digital out of home, such as LRT platform digital screens, and then as well as zone cable, which includes Fox Sports, Food Network, History Channel, Comedy Central, and then streaming channels such as Hulu, Roku, and Amazon. We also will be advertising in multiple BIPOC partnerships and media. And now I would like to show you the two very upbeat and positive 15-second videos. So Greg, you can let it rip.
It's great. Wow.
So this campaign launched this last Monday, and it'll run for about 3 weeks, and we'll be back in about 3 months and 6 months to show you BNE line. That's all I have.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, yeah. Now, to the second one, didn't that make you think that you had to wait for a bus and it's not coming?
No. Mr. Chair, council members, no, that's supposed to be comparing it to rideshare, like Uber, Lyft. And the screen that he has on his phone is actually what it looks like when you're ordering Uber and Lyft. He's being frustrated because it's taking too long.
It's wrapped in our logo.
Pardon?
It's wrapped in a transit kind of logo. Anyway.
Anyway, I think it's great. I love the idea that it's a simple notion.
Mhm.
It's more frequency, less stops, more expressy.
Thank you.
That's good. Yeah. Anybody else?
Just the chair
Ms.
of
Barber.
transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say overall, I think Katie said it probably best as she was giving the remarks. We're no longer talking about a project, we're talking about a program.
Yeah.
And when we look at these lines, I mean, I sometimes you hear, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you building more? We're opening 3 lines this year. It's a big deal. And to be able to do that and do that successfully, both from the planning and program management, construction to operations and standing up is a huge undertaking. And y'all have risen to the challenge. And I think when we're out talking to different people in transit agencies across the country, we're not just kind of the leaders in this area, we are the leaders in this area, and that and it's not only one line, two line, it's being able to successfully roll all these things together and look at how it's improving, building our ridership, people are using it, people are getting more connected to the system, and it's really showing, so just kudos to all.
And Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And thank you for your leadership, Chair Barber, appreciate it. And I'll just throw a shout out too to our HR team. Cassandra Tabor, who's our new Chief Human Relations Resources Officer, and everybody else that has been brought on. Because this hiring effort, when we're seeing the fruits of it, had a lot of layers to it, and we needed people in every division that has hiring out there to help bring those people on and get the right people on the seats of the bus, pun intended. So I just appreciate the entire, organization and enterprise working on all of the things that needs to deliver success, I think eventually for the rider, for our customers. So, cause I was worried, there were some big numbers and we still have big numbers ahead of us, but I am very hopeful and very proud of everybody who's worked to put those systems in place, prioritize which hires need to be done more urgently than others. And so I know that might be frustrating within the organization, but we're seeing the fruits from a system inside this organization. And thank you for your leadership of change, everybody who's been involved in that, because we didn't have that before, so thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. To add to the piece of it being a program and not having, I've definitely been saying to a lot of folks when they talk, like, we've never opened 3 lines in a year. And I think that is an important thing, not to go yeah to, but really appreciate the heft and what that leads to and the stress you're all under as we get near it. The other big thing in the system conversation has often been there aren't enough east-west rapid routes in our region. And when you look at the map of all the routes we just went through, they're like generally all east-west except the little bend toward your house that goes north-south. That was for you. That was for you. And so I do think it also marks the next stage in knitting together a system. And part of the piece that we all take seriously is how do you build on the momentum that the year provides, both in terms of all of the quality of the ride and the experience for all the different reasons we heard, but also a lot of new people get a chance to start to say, oh, this is what it could be, which hopefully begets the next 2, 3, 4, 5 things in a bigger program that keeps building on. So we're really excited and we don't want to miss that pitch as it comes.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank everybody who involved with this project. It's a great project to start this year, 3 projects at one time in 1 year. Speaking of hiring, I just want to know how many full-time and part-time new jobs created in these 3 projects. If anybody knows, just focus us.
We can definitely provide a full number, but most of the hiring are focused on the full-time employees.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, and all of the people who built it outside of our own complement of employees that will operate it. Because we see, certainly through transportation, but then also management, you see procurement and everybody working on those construction projects. So it goes well beyond our own employees, which is of course most important.
Tremendous, thank you. That was a well-crafted, very full of information, presentations, and finishing with the 4 of you. I know it's all been said, but I will simply echo, because I haven't said it. I wake up in the night talking about a vision of an interconnected system. I actually think we have a system. So it's no longer just an aspiration, it's actually what we got, and more coming, so great, congratulations to everybody involved, Transportation Committee and this tremendous staff, Leslie, Nick, Adam, everyone involved, Katie. This is exciting, and I thought March 22nd, whoever sets a date a year in advance, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, I'm doing. I mean, it's coming right up. Can't believe it how fast that comes by. And then June 14th. So we got our calendars. March and December. December. Right. Alrighty. Any other questions, thoughts? All right. You have 10 minutes to do as we wish. And that's right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.